Hello, everybody. Welcome,
Hello,
welcome,
hello.
welcome. This is going to be day 5 of RU204, querying, storing, and indexing JSON at speed. With me, as always, is Savannah. Hello, Savannah.
Hello, hello. It's our last day.
It's our last day. It's bittersweet. Um, but yeah, we've covered all of RU204 up to, but not including, section 5, which is going to be for today.
Advanced topics.
Yeah, advanced topics with JSON and search with Redis. Very
Yeah.
exciting. A little administrivia before we start. RU204 and all of our other courses can be found at university.redis.com. And it is a free university where you can take self-paced courses on basic Redis data structures, Redis security, running Redis at scale, search, and then search with JSON for this course. So no matter what your comfort level or experience is with Redis, you will find a course for you.
Yeah.
Also,
and if you take enough of those courses, you can become a Redis certified developer.
exactly. So there are some prerequisites to this exam, but once you meet all of them, you can take the certified developer exam, where upon completion, you'll receive a certificate that you can proudly show on LinkedIn to your friends and family. And yeah, it's just a nice feather in your cap that shows you definitely know your Redis stuff. And since this is a video stream, this will be also syndicated on our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to see all of the RU204 live courses, check out youtube.com/Redis Inc. And you can see our other live streams. And we did an RU101 live course with Suze. And you can just see all things Redis on that channel. Also, if you just cannot get enough of Redis and you want to interact live and in real time, there's our Discord channel. That can be found at discord.gg/Redis. And we're all there, plus some extra Redis developers within the company. And we're more than happy to answer questions, guide you in the right direction, or point you in the right direction, or general assistance and help.
Plus, the whole community is there. So even if it's something that us developer advocates might not have tried before, might not have had, that specific use case for, you've got the whole community there. So there's a really good chance that someone else just happens to have tried to do something similar and can offer you some advice. So we also get a lot of community interaction. We get other people that just use Redis and love using Redis that can help you out there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a really great meeting place of minds. And we hear a lot of interesting use cases for Redis on day to day. And we just got off another stream this week on Discord where we actually answer questions that we think are really good or really interesting and bring up important points. And there's always just really cool use cases that I never thought of. So it's really cool. And if you ever want to see more of our streaming events or any of our events that we have scheduled, you can check out our DevRel events page at developer.redis.com/Redis-live. And that'll give you a full rundown of our weekly schedules, such as Savannah's stream, my stream, Simon's stream, our weekly This Week in Discords, things like that. So you can always stay tuned and watch what's going on. Cool. So let's dive right in with the advanced topics. Now, it sounds advanced, but it's actually not that scary. This is actually just a section where we have bits and bobs that don't exactly fit within how to use JSON or how to use search. These are designed to assist you or to cover advanced use cases or very outside of the bell curve of use cases. So you don't exactly have to memorize these, but it's important to know that they exist and where to look for them just in case. So I've actually talked about these because I'm a big blabber. I talked about a couple of these functions before, so I apologize if this seems repetitious, but it's good stuff. So the first one, and nobody uses this enough, is the command monitor. The command monitor, what does it do?
People probably you could use it too much. You probably don't want to run this on production.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Monitor, it literally monitors the input and output of your Redis server. So it's going to listen for all the commands that are sent to it, and it will output that. So let's see if I could use an example here. I'll call monitor here. Oh, it's not going to, I can't because it's a Redis CLI. Let's see what else I can do.
Yeah, so the CLI inside of Insight is a little bit different than the general CLI. If you have like a terminal window open that you can run monitor in, and then you can do commands from the CLI in Insight.
There we go. Okay, so I'm going to call monitor. Does that actually show up?
Yep.
Okay.
It did, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to show monitor right here. And let me just rearrange this a little bit. There we go. Monitor is just basically looking at all the commands. And when you have Redis Insight running, it's constantly pinging your, well, not pinging, but it's calling info on your database just to make sure that it has a heartbeat, that it's alive. So when I actually call maybe keys, well, I actually don't want to do that. It's quite dangerous. How about ft dot info, or let's do ft.list. I'm going to call this command and watch what happens on my right terminal. Oop. my Insight went to sleep. All right, let's try it again. There we go.
There it is.
If I called ft_list, and if I call set foo bar, it'll do that. If I get foo, it'll do that. So it basically allows you to look at all the commands. Yeah, this is really helpful when you're running your Redis, your Node Redis, your Redis Pi, or your Ohm commands, and you want to actually see what's going on under the hood.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Is this? It kind of looks like just like a little bit of an echo, but if you were to run like some actual like Python code, which we might get to in this, but if you were to run a Python command and you had like a redis.ft.search with all of your like string arguments and everything, this monitor command would be able to show you exactly what's getting sent across the wire, including any like optional, all of that stuff. So for instance, like the limits have defaults. So whenever you run something from Redis Pi, this the monitor command will show you that like the default is a limit with the offset of 0 and initial limit of 10. Yeah. It's like that stuff will show up in monitor. And it's really helpful when you're debugging, especially because if you're not getting something exactly as you're expecting back from one of those clients, you can see exactly what the CLI, or you can see exactly what Redis is getting sent as an actual database command. Absolutely.
And you might have seen that little error message about use the profiler instead. So when I call monitor here, so use profiler tool to see all the requests processed by the server. This little button right here, profiler, that's what's going on. So this is going to be a little bit more of an advanced monitor where you can actually save the logs. And so now you can see the exact same thing here. So get foo, and there you go. Cool. And yeah, it's just part of Redis Insight, which makes life easier as a developer.
Absolutely.
So, you saw me use this just now, probably ft_list. Now this is going to just give you all the different indexes that exist within your Redis server. So let me just call that real quick. I tried calling one of my indexes, but I think I have. Okay, so now we have Redis Ohm Python and Redis Ohm Node. So that's from yesterday when we were running our examples. So that's where it actually exists. And so this is good for like when you want to explore a new database, or you want to make sure did I drop my index or not? I forget. So we can just check that way. And then I love using this command. ft_info. ft_info just gives you a huge dump of information on your index. So I like to do this right after I created my index, so I could actually see that the documents were indexed properly. Otherwise, it'll give you some sort of like significant error. Not an error message, but you'll be able to like kind of divine that there is an error. So as you can see, that was a lot of information that popped out, but here it is. It gives you the index name that you wanted info on. And then it tells you that it's actually indexing over JSON documents, what the prefix or prefixes are for all the keys that are being indexed, what the default score is for all of those keys. So everything has equal footing with a score of 1. And then you can look at all the different field types that we have set to index. So we have author, and we have ID, description for text, genres as a tag. We have pages as a numeric sortable, things like that. And then down here, you can actually see how many documents were indexed, the number of terms that were indexed, so that, the different fields, and the total of number of records. And this just gives you so much information. It's really good. Sometimes you'll use it, sometimes you won't, but it's just good to know that everything went through.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to have such a large amount of documents that you're not going to have it indexed instantaneously or seemingly instantaneously. So you can actually see the progress of your indexing in the background if you have like gigabytes, absolute gigabytes.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. What else do we have? Ooh. Oh, I conveniently put this out for a document. This one's really cool. So this one actually explains how it got to the query result. So there's two commands, ft explain and ft.explain CLI. So it returns a description of the provided query as understood by search. It helps identify search intersections, unions, optional, and not clauses.
Okay.
So let's actually copy this one and pop it into our Redis CLI. And so this one, we're going to be looking, of course, at our, I want to use this one, this index right here. Oh, wait, sorry. What is the index that I had? See, this is why I'm using this one. Very useful. I'll use that. And then I want to do ft explain that query. And then, sorry, I'm sort of cobbling live here. There. So I'm looking up Stephen King books that have anything less than 500 or less pages. So smaller Stephen King books. And this looks just like ft.search. But what this is going to do is going to explain the reasoning and how the Redis search is using our query as it looks at to it. Yeah.
Does it also get me results?
Let's find out. No.
Okay.
Yeah. So it purely explains what it's how it's parsing out what we're looking at.
Okay.
And this is going to have a lot of it's going to have a lot of like break characters and things like that. But basically, it's saying the intersection of Stephen and Stephen, or anything with Stephen, with King. So these both need to be together. Also, the intersection of that with a numeric of pages being less than or equal
negative,
to 500.
yep, okay. So negative infinity less than or equal to pages, less than or equal to 500.
Right. And this looks pretty gross, doesn't it?
A little bit.
So if we do explain CLI.
Oh man, look at that.
Oh,
Much better.
Yeah, we're on like vacation now. Look at this. So now you can see that we're looking at the union between Stephen plus Stephen and the union of King plus King. So basically this is somewhat the same thing. But we're looking at the intersection of Stephen and King. So necessarily. Plus, we're looking at the intersection of Stephen King and the numeric of the pages. Yeah.
So what would happen if you put, how do I do the exact match on Stephen King?
I believe that is parentheticals. Huh.
That is okay.
So there's no real difference.
So would this get me like Stephen Jones king?
Let's find out. How is this different than this? Intersect union, union, intersect union. Oh, there's a difference. Intersect, intersect.
Oh.
So this would probably give me Stephen Jones or John King or
Okay.
Marcus Stephen or something like that.
Yeah. Or King Stephen.
Or King Stephen, yeah. Yeah, this is really useful when you're putting together or building queries, and this is also good for optimization. So
yeah.
If you can reduce or flatten the amount of operations, it'll make it really nice. And yeah, I recommend doing explain CLI because as you can see here, it has like some tab spaces in there for you, so it's a lot easier to read as compared to this. Which that's I mean, this might be useful if you're using it with a client, but when you're using FT explain or FT explain CLI, I would actually venture that you shouldn't be using it with your client. You should be using it with your CLI or your Redis Insight.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of.
It seems a little bit more. It definitely seems like a utility to like figure out my query and how to write the best query I can, as opposed to something that I really want to like do programmatically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, those FT lists, FT info, and FT explain and explain CLI are really great tools that you want to definitely use.
I had never seen explain CLI. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a neat one. This is also a really good one. This is sort of like making your queries race and looking at their performance times. Accepts an index in query or aggregation, like FT to aggregate, as parameters and returns the results as well as an array of statistics on performance. Includes total runtime of the query and the time required to parse the parameters and iterate through the query clauses, such as intersections, unions, things like that.
Yeah, I've seen this one because at one point someone asked why they were trying to filter to a smaller set of results, and that timed out, as opposed to their big general query that did not time out.
Right.
And so when they looked at the profile, it was because there's all of these, there's a lot more math happening. Like, yes, there was less data that would end up being transmitted over the wire, but they were doing a lot of complicated filters and stuff like that. And so all of that took a lot more time than just being like, here's all of your stuff.
Yeah. And that actually gives you a lot of information. Like maybe you should have multiple indexes. One that only filters for like certain values or certain things like that, or certain field types. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, this is a really great glimpse into like how fast things are running under the hood. And let's check that out here. So we're doing the same query, short Stephen King books. You're seeing ft.profile and then, oops, hold on. Let me do that again. ft.profile and then that, and then search, and then query. I think are the commands. Let me look real quick. And that search and query are part of the actual function telling you what it's wanting to do. So we're telling it we want to search, and here's the query. If you want to do an aggregate, you'd probably do aggregate and then do your aggregate query. So here we go. It's going to give us a profile of all the information. So it took me a total of 3/4 of a second. Parsing time took 0.09 to create a pipeline to actually contact my server. It took this long. And then it just gives us information per part of the query.
Yeah, it breaks it down.
Yeah, so you get a huge like within the milliseconds of like where something was actually.
Oh, Justin froze. Oh no, and he's got the screen. Oh,
am I back?
It's back. You're back.
Okay, sorry about
That's okay. We streamed earlier today. I know that your internet has like your 2-hour limit and everything. So
exactly.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed your internet lets us do this.
So this is cool. Yeah, you can see the processors. So what different actor or what action is taking. So something that like an indexer is taking 0.002, scorer, sorter, loader, all that information.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot going on with that. So I would definitely recommend checking this out in your own time. Yeah, search or aggregate, and then the actual telling it where the query is. This is a pretty good one. I would, yeah, definitely check that out at your convenience.
It's definitely good, especially for like the debugging and the figuring out how to make your query better and looking at what you're doing and why it's taking so long at certain steps. So like, especially if you've got a query that is timing out or that is taking way longer than you feel like it should, go check out like what's taking the most time. Because this is a pretty handy way to see like, okay, this is the search part, this is the filter, whatever, that's taking, the majority of the time. So how do I improve that part?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, so Redis on its own has its own config command where you can do config get or config set, where you can actually change some settings. Search is such a powerful component of Redis that it has its own config as well. So I won't go through every single one of these, but when you call config or ft.config get, like say here, you can do a config get star. It will tell you all of the different settings that you can actually change or alter. So you can look at max doc table size, max search results. So you only get 10,000 search results turned back.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So that right there is why if you've ever done like a find.all and you find that you only have 10,000 results, that right there is why. So
you can send it to 100,000 if you wanted. I mean, it's your pipeline. So yeah, you can also, this is very, very important. You can actually set and change the timeout. Yep. So if you've tuned your queries to be a certain length and you want to shorten your timeout, that's an option, because if anything lasts longer than, say if you're used to like 50 milliseconds for a return trip, if anything goes beyond that, then it's definitely going to be an error. Then you should, consider changing your timeout and then handling that error.
Absolutely. Once you have like statistics on how your database is being used and how long those things take, like knowing that something's taking longer than normal is probably a really good thing to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that, with this on timeout, this is actually a question, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago on This Week in Discord. Mm-hmm. Somebody was searching and it was creating wrong results, because what was happening, you see this return here, that's going to return the number that search or aggregate is dealing with at the point of the timeout. So it's like when you're in school and you have a test and the time is up and you just have to turn in your papers. That's exactly what we're doing with search. So as the default timeout of 500, when 500 milliseconds goes by, it's like, all right, return whatever you have.
Here's what I got. Here's what I tried.
Exactly. And that's actually a little dangerous because you want to actually receive an error.
Potentially.
Potentially. The results might vary. But on timeout, you can change to error, I believe, and it will actually send you an error, like timeout, instead of, here you go, job done.
So that timeout, it came up partially because of what I was talking about with like the profiler. If I have a really complicated query that times out, it might give me back more results than a slightly more general query, because it was still, it was only partway through filtering. And so instead of getting all the way, it's here in my funnel of filters.
Right.
So yeah, it can definitely be a really confusing thing.
So yeah, this is a really good place to check everything. Here is a list, a very well written document that kind of talks about ft.doc. And here is big breakdown of all the different things that is included in your config. So, and also shows whether or not you can change it at load time or on runtime, which is also really important. You can't change certain things at runtime, such as the global password. Kind of makes sense.
Makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah. So definitely have this in your bookmark. I'm sure everybody has a lovely folder of Redis bookmarks. Make sure to add that. Yeah. This one, this one's my favorite. I learned the hard way. ft.drop index deletes the index and the index only. Not listed here for good reason as ft.drop, which deletes the index and all the keys, all the documents that were indexed within that index.
So does that DD option also do that?
Yes. So that also deletes the documents.
But at least that one's like an explicit, like that was like an explicit option. Like you're explicitly saying like, yes, drop the documents, as opposed to maybe unintentionally dropping the documents with that drop.
Yeah, we should just get rid of ft.drop, but that's my own opinion. Yeah, this is great. So this one will just delete the index. Your documents will be safe. This will drop your index and delete all of your documents. So cool. Now, let's look at the next section. I believe that's it. Yeah. So that was the utilities. Those are kind of the back of house things that you would do when you're working and building up your index. So now we're actually going to look at some advanced actual index administration for creating a more powerful, more customized index for your documents. This one is really cool, filter. So filter, this is an option that goes all the way back to the beginning when you're creating an index. And this one will look at field types within your document set, and it will only index them if it meets a certain criteria that you define. So we have here an index called book demo : 2015 plus. And everything looks normal. We're still looking at RU204 books, but now you see this filter option here, and it says at year published greater than 2014. So that means it's only going to accept in documents that have that year published greater than 2014. And so this will make us like a different index from like a normal index where you wouldn't have that filter. And that makes it cool. That kind of breaks down your search indexes. You can have multiple ones, which could potentially be much faster.
So that schema, though, does that mean that I can't do my other types of searches? Like if I wanted to search this index book demo 2015 plus, I can't search it by the author, right? As it sits right there?
As it sits, yeah. But this is just like an example of how you would use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would use year published as normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could still search by author, title, genres, things like that if you wanted. But yeah, this extra little filter will only allow certain ones in. And you can do compound filters as well. So you can have like intersections and unions and things like that. That's really cool. I actually played with that a lot. Yeah, it's nice if you have like big books, or like we did, how we had science fiction books. If you want to break up your indexes into different sub-indexes based off of genre, that could be useful. So if you only want to search horror books or science fiction books or dystopian young adult books or anything like that.
Adventure dystopian westerns.
Exactly. I'm sure that exists somewhere. Also, it wouldn't be Redis if we didn't have something on a timer until it disappeared. So we have a temporary clause within our FT create, which creates a TTL.
Oh.
And so this creates an index, but it will be destroyed unless it's accessed
Oh,
within a set amount of time. Yeah, so this one we're
okay.
creating and we're putting in temporary 30. So it's going to live for 30 seconds before it just automatically, walks off the planet. Um, if somebody actually searches or uses that index, then that timer will reset back to 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So,
pretty cool. So that's like a very easy way to be like, hey, like, for instance, for these courses, if we wanted to say, like, let's look at science fiction books today, I could set a temporary timer and do it for, I don't know, we'll say 30 minutes. So whatever 30 times 30 is, that's easy math. So it's like 600 seconds.
yeah.
That's not right. I did 30 times 30. There's 60 seconds in a minute, not 30.
Yeah, sorry.
But anyways, and then it would just sort of automatically delete when I stop accessing it. So that's totally why I get those emails that are like, hey, you haven't accessed your account in so many days. We're going to delete it for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair enough. That's awesome.
And this would be good if, like, I could imagine if you were creating a website where if you uploaded a CSV or any kind of like data file and you actually indexed that data file for the user, that's a service. And you can set a temporary clause on that because you don't want to actually have that entire document indexed all the time. So if they're not going to use it, then you might as well get rid of it. And that saves you
this
space.
temporary is basically the use it or lose it. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so now we have here score and score field. This one is cool because then you can actually change the default scoring of documents. So it allows for the addition of a custom score for each document. Default is 1, like I've said before, and you can actually see that in ft.info. If there's no preference to any document to appear higher or lower than any other document in a search result. So the score field attribute, it allows for a specified score to be added to individual documents to raise or lower the individual score compared to the default score. So looking at it, we're actually giving everything a default score here of 0.5 when we're creating our index. And then score field is going to be, it's going to be a field within each document under the index, and it's going to be called book score. So now when documents are created, they'll have a default score of 0.5. And then to set a specific score for a document, we'll set the attribute book score for a document to a value between 0 and 1. So if we wanted to make a popular purchased book show up more. Exactly. Captain Codeman, here to the rescue. Like for Amazon's sponsored product. Very similar, yeah. Things are all equal, but some are just a little more equal. And that's
some animals are more equal than others.
Exactly. That book has to be. We'll have to search for that book within our index, but I'm sure it is. Yeah, so this allows you to make things show up a little bit more than normal. And we actually have this implemented in our doc search within, I'm going to say Redis.io. We have scores higher on most commonly accessed documents in our search feature. So you can actually see that running, which is really cool.
That's cool.
Stop words. They are commonly occurring words that are ignored by search as they usually aren't relevant to search queries. So these are just common words that just link verbs, adjectives, and nouns together. So A is the, and. So we could search for on, be, but by for a title. But more often than not, it's just going to try to skip these because these do not offer any kind of identifying flavor.
I mean, I would just like to point out that to be or not to be is entirely stop words.
Yeah, that's true. Shakespeare is totally
entirely ignored.
He's trolling Redis. So if we wanted to just completely ignore science fiction and reality, sometimes I like ignoring reality. Within our searches, we'll just dictate stop words 3, science fiction and reality. Now, to completely disable stop words, you just say stop words 0. And that's saying, hey, stop words, you're going to have 0 content. By default, it's going to be this lovely list.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, this one's really cool. And I kind of touched upon this earlier when in our week when talking about how to change or add attributes to your schema. You'll want to use the ft.alter command. And what that does is you could actually add a new attribute, or you could remove, depending on what you want to do. And it will reindex your entire index, or it won't reindex your entire index. It will just index all the new ones with this new attribute.
Okay.
So yeah, here we're calling alter on our book demo index. To the schema, we're adding metrics.rating votes as votes, numeric sortable. And if we look at the FT.
So this would be if like I've got a database, it's up and running, and then after a year, we want to add another field.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. New products, new features, new attributes, anything like that you're going to want to track. You can do that. And then, you can feed it your index and then skip initial scan. That means it will not rescan your entire thing. And then any attribute and options. So you can do tags of separators or text with, sortable, things like that.
Okay. So that's skip initial scan. That's like if I want to skip it and only add this field for new things going forward, I want to skip it. But if I want to be like, okay, everybody, you've got this new field now. I do not want to skip that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here is an example. And it's a pretty good one to use. I think it works really well. I mean, nothing beats just like recreating or creating a proper index from the get-go. But sometimes you just
change happens.
Things happen. All right, so some hand-on exercises. The monitor we've actually played with. And so I don't really think that we have to play at that again. We actually did explain CLI.
We did.
We're very studious students. FT info, we did inspect one of the indexes. Look at us, we're good. FT drop index, I don't mind doing that. I'll do it. Let's see here, ft._list. So I'm going to get rid of, I have 2 indexes going on. I have a lot of docs. I'll just drop this one. So ft.drop index, and then, okay. I'll call ft.list, and you can see that it was removed.
There you go.
You'll see that all of my keys are still here. So that's nice.
There they are.
Again, if you want to delete everything dangerously, then you do dd, delete docs, like that. And don't do that unless you really want to.
Well, that wouldn't even get you anything anymore since you don't have that index.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah.
Saving myself for myself. And then, we have advanced index creation. So this is an example of 400 pages or less for books. And so I could actually call this, and it shouldn't give me any problems. Make this a little bit bigger. All right, so I am filtering. All the documents are going to go through this filter check of pages less than or equal to 400. Okay, and then I will call ft.search index book demo 400 pages or less. And then let's see here, pages, let's look for anything. Negative inf to inf, and then return pages, and let's do sort by Let's do not do sort by. Let's see what happens. Oh.
Oh.
This is what happens. I didn't misspell it. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Looks like I did not index properly. See, I used ft.info, and now it's actually giving me information when I'm seeing not a number.
Negative, not a number.
Negative, not a number. Yeah. Percent index, only 1%. So something definitely went wrong.
And we've got a question in the chat.
Oh, let's see what's going on.
From a performance point of view, if one has indexes, what is the best way of adding many keys? Multi or one by one? Is it possible to pause indexing explicitly until added all the requirements?
That's a very good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I do know that search is multi-threaded. So I don't know if you'd actually need to pause it. I know that the Redis core is still single-threaded as is normal.
Yeah.
I would definitely use multi to add many, many keys. That's a very good question. I would trust search. I don't know if it's possible to actually pause indexing explicitly, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you'd actually would need to do that. It depends on how many keys. I'll have to work on that one. I'll have to ask some of our actual search developers and see what they would recommend. That's a very good question. Thank you.
So when you did that ft.create, did you skip did you do the thing?
I'm sorry.
RU204 book. Oh no, that you've still got the RU204 book, right?
Interesting. It worked when I wrote it. Let's see. I won't do too much debugging on live, but
yeah.
Index book demo, 400 pages or less, on JSON, prefix 1, filter, pages less than or equal to 400. Let me just remove this filter and see if it still does it. Okay. So I am not quite sure why this is not indexing. That's very interesting. Are you seeing anything?
I am attempting it now.
Okay, thank you. Because all my keys are you. Oh, that's why. Look at me.
Because it's RU204 book, and we've got RU204 Redis.
Okay, so it is working perfectly.
We just have the inconsistent key names that you've warned us about so many times.
That is so funny. Okay, so let's try this again. So inconsistent key names got me. So let's do this with Redis ohm node from yesterday. ft.info. Oh, yeah, I should probably give you the index name. There we go. I can already tell. Look at all this valuable data.
Look at all those numbers.
There we go.
There we go.
That's great. This is fantastic. So there we go. Now I actually have, let's see if I can search. Here's all these books. See if I can get my infinite with return 1 pages. And there we go. All my data. It's showing 400. Interesting. Okay, I'll find out. I'll figure that out later. All right. Temporary. It's very simple. We can actually call this one without a problem, and I'll call ft list to actually look at it. So we're creating a temporary index. It's going to be 60 seconds long. Let me create it for 15 seconds just so we can actually see it live. And I'll immediately call ft._list. And so we see temporary there. I'll call it again. It's still there.
And then we just play the Jeopardy music for a little bit while everyone writes down their answers.
Oh, there we go.
There it goes.
So it just disappeared. Now, if I called a query upon that, then it would have reset its timer again. So.
Yep.
All right. And then score and score field, I don't really think that we need to actually implement that live, but that is something that you'll want to check out if you do see that you want to actually have results go up or down.
Yeah, so that's sort of like a weighting almost, like a priority type thing,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly it, yeah. FT alter, so we made that 400 pages or less filtered table. If I wanted to actually add an author to a search type as a data field to index through, I can just do this. And just pop that in there. And it's like, yeah, no problem. Also, I do believe, now that I think about what I was typing, I think I temporarily removed that filter when I was, I removed the filter when I was doing some debugging. So I think that we would see a filter up here if it did exist. So just to show everybody the truth and everything working perfectly, I'm going to go up real quick and call filter again. Thank you for bearing with me. And then I'm going to add the key structure. To here. Oh, of course. So ft.drop index. And then here we go. Okay, and let's create it again. Okay, now let's call ft.info. And then let's pass in our index. All right, I'm going to see if there's a filter that it has listed here. There we go. Here's the filter. Pages
there it is.
100, so there it is.
Yeah.
Now let me call from our history, my history. Here we go. There we go. So now we actually have the filter in place. And now all of our pages are less than 400. That makes me feel validated. Sorry, everybody. I have a slight cold, so I'm a little disassociated. So cool. And then.
So that alter command here.
Yeah.
Subsequent document editions will have the title and author fields indexed.
Yeah. Yeah. So
okay.
If I call this, we can call that now. What are we adding here? Author as author text. So let me do this here. So if I look up this one, JSON.get, there we go, the root. We will have author still, but we won't be able to search by it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then any subsequent JSON object that we add that has the RU204 Redis node book prefix, we will have their author field indexed.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Spaceship's taking off. And that is going to be the end of section.
That's our show.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry for blasting through that if that was a little bit too fast, but those are really just like really one and done straight shot commands and clauses to add.
Yeah.
And I definitely
those
recommend
advanced topics, they get into like the designing your query efficiently and paying attention to what's taking time and, that type of stuff.
Yeah. And if anybody's been watching my live stream of the bird tracking app, I use a lot of these commands to just sort of like just do quick checks of whether or not my indexes were working and things like that. And those are really good tools when you're first approaching your application for development, of just checking, making sure everything is good. So yeah, that was RU204, storing, querying, and indexing JSON at speed. One important thing to know is that this section 5, we intentionally left a little sparse because JSON and search are being developed and improved and upgraded as we speak. So this is going to constantly have new features and new updates in it. So you'll see more updates right here. So, and you might have been noticing, if anybody's been taking our courses, that a lot of the courses are being updated. So our streams is currently being updated with a lot of the newer commands that we have for streams. RU101 is also being improved because we're kind of just completing the methodology of implementing some of our data structures. We're also integrating a little bit of, like, if you're tired of serializing your JSON, like we talk about in RU101, you can always just look at using JSON, the actual Redis capability with Redis Stack. So yeah, this is a living document, so constantly look for updates if you are enthusiastic about search in JSON.
I have a quick question still.
Yeah.
Is there an easy way with the ft.alter to like go back and index the authors that are already there? Or do I have to like recreate, do I just rerun the ft.create and add, like go back before my filter and recreate the schema? Does that make sense?
I believe you would just have to drop in an index and recreate. Yeah, because that filter is just the hard. I think that filter is non-negotiable. That's a good question. That might be changed, if the need actually arises, if people are getting feedback, or people being our developers for this, if they do find out that, it needs to be, if it's a trend that we need to remove that filter or update it, then yeah.
Well, not the filter, just like indexing. Like when I first created that, or when you first created that pages less than 400, the pages was the only thing indexed.
Yeah.
Like, is there a way to add the author as an index, or do I just have to recreate that whole filtered index with a different schema?
Oh, I believe when you add a new attribute, it will still work under that filter.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think that yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't think there'd be a reason why it would not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't actually have a new book to test it out on, but
fair.
Good question. All right. Well, filter is good to have as a query level feature, not index schema.
So I was kind of thinking about this and the idea that, like, I think that's probably a really interesting use case for the temporary, because if like we're doing this, we're doing this chat and we're like, okay, well, I only want to deal with science fiction books for the next hour. That way, like, I've got that filter and I've got my index. I know exactly what my index has in it. And then once I stop asking for it, it's like, okay, you don't need that filtered index anymore. Or like if for, some piece of time, you want to only look at books that were written after 2015. You have that index that's built in. That way you don't have to do that filter on all of your searches. And then once you stop asking for that data, it's like, okay, we're not paying attention to that filter anymore.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, these can all be used in combination for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All righty. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and congratulations for if you're watching episode 5 or day 5 of RU204, then the odds are pretty high that you've seen all of our previous videos. So,
or not,
not. If not, then we definitely invite you to check out our previous ones. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And if you have any questions or concerns or anything like that, by all means, contact us in our Discord channel. Say hello. You can talk, regarding this video, just bring it up in our RU204 channel, and we're there to monitor that. So, and as always, subscribe to our YouTube channel because we're going to be constantly releasing videos and live streams together and separately with our own projects. And you saw me bring up a lot of commands today. So I always recommend that you check out our commands page. It is extensive, and we're constantly updating our commands with new versions. So it behooves you to add this to your bookmarks folder for Redis. And yeah, any parting words?
Oh man, I'll throw out my always caveat with the Redis.io commands is that it is the CLI command syntax, and your mileage will absolutely vary when you try to use those with the client libraries about like orders, some like optional versus required arguments. So if you have questions about those, always come to Discord. We've got a lot of community experience with all of those different client libraries. And there's a very good chance someone will be able to help you with the exact syntax difference between the CLI and your client.
Absolutely. And they'll also mention whether or not it's like when this command was released. So we have a lot of people that still, if you are working on production Redis, you might see that you're using an older version of Redis. I've seen some people that are still using 5, which is great. But some of the newer commands just don't work with that version. We have a lot of backwards compatibility, but sometimes the newer, shinier commands aren't there. So everything's listed, as well as whether or not they're dangerous or fast or slow. Slow equals danger to Redis. So it just helps you kind of like shape and mold your programming with Redis to say, should I really use keys? Is that a smart thing, or should I use something else? You should use something else. Cool. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this live stream series. Tune in for later series, and have a great day.
Go become Redis certified developers.
Please, please. Take it easy.
Bye.